Hey, what is going on, everyone? Welcome on this terrific Tuesday. Welcome to webinar number 2 in our Best of series. I am honored, and I hope you can hear me. Are the microphones on? Can everyone out there hear me? Are we in Larry Land? Yes, I am honored to be your host today. I'm Larry Long Jr., CEO. That's Chief Energy Officer of LLJR Enterprises. And we've got an esteemed panel. I was looking around when we were in the green room and I had to pinch myself. I said, how in the world did I end up being able to host this with our esteemed panelists today as we discuss AI? Yes, I am not ChatGPT, but as we discuss AI as a game changer, addressing the key challenges in sales teams. Now, I've got a question for you. Are you ready to empower your sales team with the tools and the knowledge to thrive at a whole new level? Well, if you aren't ready, you better get ready, because today's session is going to explore how AI is transforming modern sales strategies, enabling data-driven decision-making, automating coaching, and unlocking new levels of efficiency to stay ahead in this ever-evolving market. We're going to learn strategic insights on aligning AI with your sales goals, scaling your operations seamlessly, and driving sustainable growth. Now, I just got to call a spade a spade. What we're talking about is so hot, and I'm not trying to drop the mic. I can't wait to introduce both of our panelists. Panelist number 1, from Lighter Capital, VP of Sales, Tanner Kavakovich. And then panelist number 2, coming from MeetRecord, as one of the co-founders, we've got Sachin Sinha. Now, I couldn't do them justice by giving them an intro. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pass the mic and we'll get kicked off. Sachin, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Larry. Thanks for hosting this, and thanks for the warm welcome. Thanks, Tanner, for being part of this for this discussion. I'm looking forward to this. Yeah, I'm Sachin. I'm one of the co-founders of the company MeetRecord. We started this a couple of years back, and we are kind of on a journey of helping sales teams or any customer-facing teams, for that matter, to help them kind of implement AI, or basically use AI in their sales process to help them close more deals, identify opportunities, identify problem areas where they can improve, and so on. So yeah, looking forward to this conversation and learning from Larry and Tanner, and also helping whoever is part of this conversation to learn what we have been able to achieve with MeetRecord, or generally with AI. And yeah, looking forward to this conversation.
We're looking forward as well. So Sachin, I don't know if you're okay with it, but we're now going to pass the mic to Tanner K. Kavakovich. I hope I pronounced that correct, Tanner.
Oh, you got it right. It's been butchered plenty of times in the past, but that was perfect. So I'm Tanner, everyone. So I've been with Lighter Capital for 6 years. Lighter Capital is in the business of preserving founders' equity. So we have completely non-dilutive financing structures for companies that range all the way down to 50,000, all the way up to 4 million. We've had the pleasure of investing in over 500 startups since 2010. So personally, I started 6 years ago. I was an SDR, used plenty of AI tools at the time, and then was more of an account executive for Lighter, and now I manage the sales team. So it's been a great journey with Lighter, and excited to offer any insights I can to the audience here.
Wow, that's powerful. And I see we've got some friends in the audience. Amy Robertson, who's got a background in sales enablement, which I don't know if she meant to tee it up, but you teed it up, Amy, with my first question. But before I get into my questions, I just want to share to our live audience today, please use your Twitter, get your Twitter fingers ready, and send us any questions that are on your mind that we can answer. I've got a plethora of questions on my mind, but it's not about me. This is about you. So Sachin, I need to know, AI has the potential to make sales enablement more effective. Now I need to know how. How can sales teams leverage AI-powered insights to personalize their training, and achieve and accomplish better results?
Yeah, absolutely. So AI has been a game changer, especially in the last couple of years. The way it has evolved has been like amazing, and that's what the reason of starting these businesses like MeetRecord, which have been able to leverage AI. So with sales enablement, of course, it's one of our ICPs for our category as well, the product we are in, or the category we are in. So what we see, and this is coming from real examples I'm talking about, where larger teams where sales enablement is responsible for kind of enabling sales teams to do sales or kind of manage their job better or do the job better. So we see them using it in two different ways. I can talk about practical examples and I talk about generic examples as well. So generally, sales enablement, how they be using AI in terms of helping learn patterns of what are the best learning practices. For example, let's say if you have a 10 people sales team, not everybody is good at every skill. So how do you identify which salesperson is your sales rep needs help with what aspect of your sales process? So that could be somebody, some people are very good at, let's say, maybe negotiation. Some people are very good at maybe doing a discovery process. Or some people are very good at presentation skills and then able to present the product or service they are selling much better than others. So how do you identify those gaps and specifically design a coaching or a training program or enablement program, as you call it, depending on what a person or individual needs? So that's where AI has come in and helps sales enabling people to kind of identify those gaps and fill in those gaps with the help of AI-enabled tools. And MeetRecord, of course, is one of the examples, but there are multiple other tools out there which are helping them. So we see generally identifying kind of a pattern in terms of a learning process. So everybody likes learning in different ways. Some people like learning in short bursts. Some people like learning in one go, where they are kind of sitting in a training session and kind of learning from that. But of course, it's very dependent on individual to individual. Designing individualized process or designing individual based training programs or enablement programs is what we see how sales enablement can use AI.
I love it. That customization, that personalization, that tailoring of the specific sales training depending upon the gaps and being able to identify the gaps. I appreciate you sharing that. Now, Tanner, I need to ask you, from your experience, how have your sales teams over at Lighter Capital benefited from AI tools, specifically around managing deals and building better client relationships?
Yeah. No, it's a good question. I think, first and foremost, one of the first exposures to an AI tool was MeetRecord for Lighter. And it really comes down to self-reflection being such a powerful tool, in the sales process, to take time to listen to yourself, have a conversation, because, Lighter Capital sells something, that's a commodity, right? It's capital structure. So there's not a set demo, that we can go to. Hey, what is a term loan like? Well, that it's an amortization schedule, it's a payment schedule. You pay me back over 3 or 4 years. So really the conversation, surrounds understanding the pain points of founders. It's very hard, especially in the early stage, to be a founder, right? And, there's kind of, I think one story that I'd go to was before MeetRecord, we had a call tool, which was filled of mostly qualifying questions, right? What's your annual recurring revenue? How many customers do you have? Is there any concentration? What's your churn? Kind of those type of diagnostic questions is what I like to call them. And I quickly realized, if that was our call tool, that's would be the extent of the conversations, right? Fairly surface level, not really something that sparks interest and a connection, with those founders. So with MeetRecord, I was able to identify with my team of what questions that are actually impactful to learn more about the business and learn more about the pain points of the founder. So we can align more of a capital structure, with the founder. So I think, that was kind of the first light bulb moment for me where I said, okay, I'm not setting up the sales team for success by having these very surface level questions. So if we can get a little deeper, I think that's where we can hopefully, build a better connection, because ultimately at Lighter, it's a 3-year loan as a standard with us. But oftentimes they come back for more capital. So this relationship, can last 4, 5, or 6 years. So those initial conversations are really important. And analyzing those and looking at those on a daily basis as a salesperson is really where you can kind of scale your sales ability and continuously improve.
Wow, I love that. Love it, love it, love it. Tanner, thank you for sharing. And I see that Denise, we're getting deeper with Denise, who's representing Houston. It looked like Amy Robertson was feeling everything that you were talking about. And when you shared, know thyself is what I heard. And really those relationships, being able to dig into those relationships is super powerful. I don't know where I got this shirt, but I absolutely love it. Now, I had the opportunity to speak with a group of sales professionals. That was just yesterday. And they shared about the grind. They shared about the pressure that's put on them. And we know how that is. We all have quotas that we need to hit. We got to keep the lights on. Sales teams are often faced with burnout from the high pressure situations and environments. I'm curious, how do both of you think that AI can help alleviate some of that stress, specifically with some of those repetitive tasks and performance insights? Any help on the way, on the horizon with AI?
Yeah, I'll go first, probably. Yeah. So we have seen this again. This is kind of still evolving, I would say, but we do see there are strong or specific use cases of helping salespeople reduce that burnout or reduce their stress in terms of what they are doing. So generally, what we have seen is of course, one is the basic stuff which tools like ours do, but there are a lot of other stuff. For example, let's say, again, ask us any sales rep out there, what is the most cumbersome job or part of the job that they kind of not like so much or dislike, if I have to say it very bluntly. And that is basically filling up CRMs, right? Filling data in the CRM. And without filling data in CRMs, people in leadership positions like Tanner, for example, would hardly be able to get any insights in terms of forecasting or in terms of how the sales team would be performing the next quarter or what are the projections for the next quarter. So that's where tools come in to help you auto-populate fields in your CRM based on the conversation that you already had in a meeting, right? So those are, and this could go much deeper in terms of helping them kind of do their jobs. So the primary job of a salesperson is to sell, not to fill data, which is of course important, but it's more like a secondary thing. But it does impact your sales team's overall performance in terms of being able to project the right thing or being able to project the right picture in terms of how you're going to do or how exactly the results are going to come out in the future quarters. So we do see salespeople kind of using that aspect to kind of reduce the effort they put into manual tasks. And that's where we see AI kind of coming in, reducing the burden that they are doing on a day-to-day basis on kind of cumbersome jobs that they are doing.
I love it. I love it. Tanner, anything to add?
Yeah, I think outside of just kind of manual tasks, I think what AI really gives you the chance to do is kind of create your own marketing messages more easily. Like let's say, you come from SaaStr, an event like that, and you want to do follow-up. You can supplement that, with ChatGPT, and other kind of email programs we have, or, just basic follow-up. My sales team typically has 4 or 5 calls per day, and those emails can be fairly time consuming, right? So, MeetRecord and other AI tools can allow you to get a clear understanding of what the action items are, give a summary, and then expedite that email creation, after that. So I think that's, really important. The more time they can spend on calls and actual selling, any product, I think the better, and puts them in a better position for success.
Wow, that's super powerful, and greatly appreciate you sharing that. I want to give a reminder to all of our listeners, whether you're tuning in on LinkedIn, whether you're joining us from YouTube, we want to hear from you. What questions do you have specifically around AI being that game changer and how it can address some of the key challenges faced by our sales teams out there. Now, Sachin, this question is specifically for you. I'm curious, how does MeetRecord specifically use AI to analyze sales conversations, and what are some specific patterns or insights that AI can reveal that the human analysis might miss?
Yeah, there are a lot of aspects actually. So we might again, as I think, just continuing from what Anna said, like taking notes. So I mean, even let's say some of the stuff that you kind of listen in on the call while talking to a customer or prospect, you might think it is important, or you might think it's not important based on your understanding of the business or where you are in the sales process, right? But it's actually very important in terms of overall kind of deciding the course of action on that particular deal or opportunity, right? So that's where AI tools can come in, kind of really. MeetRecord specifically does that, where it kind of picks out those specific points which a human eye might miss. So let's say typical sales conversations are between 30 to 45 minutes. It's very easy to miss certain important points in those 45 minutes. And it's humanly not possible to kind of identify everything in that 45-minute discussion that you discussed, right? So that is one part with that definitely we see a kind of MeetRecord is helping sales teams, and you have a live example what Tanner mentioned as well. And then other things that we have seen like human eye, and generally what happens is when you are that is something in terms of coaching. So when you're managing even let's say 5 sales reps or 10 sales reps, let's say, and every sales rep's doing a couple of meetings a day, imagine like 100 meetings in a week that a sales manager needs the attention of the sales manager, and it's practically impossible for any human to do that. And even if you have, let's say, if you pick out those specific meetings where which needs your attention, where exactly you should go to, right? Now, which part of the meeting does need your attention? You might just jump into hoops from one part of the meeting to another. So that's where AI kind of comes in. A MeetRecord AI kind of comes in and kind of helps sales team to identify specific points in the meetings which they should pay attention to. And the third point, which I would like to highlight, is in terms of coaching itself, where let's say when you are giving scores to a, let's say, individual, most of the times, let's say, there is a human bias which comes in. Whereas when AI kind of analyzes that meeting and gives a score to that meeting, it's completely based on what the system is set or the process is set. So there is no human bias as such in terms of giving a coaching score. It's completely unbiased, and it's completely based on what the salesperson performed or how he or she kind of did in that meeting. So these are a few things we see. Coaching, one is one thing. Second is your reducing manual tasks, reducing human errors in the sales process.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. And coaching at scale, because we're only humans, we're not machines, except for me. That's a great use of AI. Now, I want to say thank you to Amy Robertson. Amy has a question. What specific technologies are used, and she added, or recommended for AI? Sachin, what are your thoughts there as you look at Amy's inquiry?
Sure, I'll be biased. So the first thing, Amy, you should use this MeetRecord because it's going to help you kind of analyze and record and get everything from your meeting that you're missing out on. And of course, there are other things that you can use. One is, I think definitely you should be using is something what is really kind of picking up in the market is AI agent, which could be for any specific job that you're trying to do, and more so in sales. So since you did not mention the use case probably, so sales, if I imagine it's a sales use case, so definitely AI agents is something you should definitely try it out and see how effective it is for your sales process. So these are a couple of new technologies, but there are a lot more others out there which are kind of creating waves in the market as well.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. And what I'm hearing is it's in the details. Being able to pick out those specific points throughout a conversation, throughout a demo that need focus, as well as who's your caddy. For those that play golf, you know that having a caddy by your side to give you that guidance, to give you that insight, to give you that comfort to make that next shot for a hole-in-one. Am I right? Or am I right, Tanner? Is so important. And having that in sales is equally important as well. So Tanner, I know we talked in the green room about scaling sales teams. And I'm curious, from your perspective, how does AI enable companies to scale their sales operations more effectively? And also, what are some of those key areas that can benefit from leveraging AI?
Yeah. I think one, kind of to Amy's point as well, like what other technologies, obviously I'd recommend MeetRecord. I'm a power user of it myself. But seamless AI is another one when you're talking about scaling sales teams. So this is essentially a platform where you can get lead lists, and it gives you real-time emails and insights. And I think, it's very easy to pull a list of 1,000 contacts in your ICP with these platforms, but then it's understanding, okay, how do I get the best conversion rate out of these people? How do I actually get content and feedback to them that's relevant? So I think that's one way to quickly scale a sales team, if that's a channel that really resonates and you have a powerful message behind it. And I think for me, to answer your question, Larry, to scale sales teams, one thing that AI can help you do is training and upskilling. Specifically the MeetRecord use case. I had a new investment director, come on board, and before this AI tool, our ramp up period typically would honestly take 6 months, just because it's complex, products that we're selling on the capital side, and just the nuances of having these kind of 30 to 45-minute conversations with founders. So they'd have to, ride a ton of calls, every week, every day, in person. Since we went remote, MeetRecord really allowed me to expedite that training process. And what I did, and I think Sachin, you recommended this maybe, every day, my new investment director, I just said, hey, listen to 3 calls. And I had a curated list of, all the sales team. And I said, once you finish the call, email me 2 strengths and 2 weaknesses, that you saw from the other salesperson. And, it showed me 2 things. It showed me that they had the tenacity to stay on top of listening to 3 calls. And, obviously the email, understanding the strengths and weaknesses, it showed me that they were engaged and listening. So, that took a 6 months onboarding cycle and really compressed it down 60 days, and I was really confident in that salesperson to hit the ground running. So that's, maybe one way you wouldn't think about, as you add people. But I think the quicker you can onboard, the quicker you can scale.
That's powerful right there. Now I'm going to ask you both to look into your crystal ball. And I know that no one can predict the future. We can certainly try. I've certainly tried and I've missed miserably. But as we look ahead, I'm curious, what future AI advancements do you anticipate having the biggest impact on sales teams? And how can organizations, how can businesses prepare for these changes right now? We're in October of 2024. How can we ready ourselves for these upcoming changes?
I think we are right at the right time, kind of, in terms of a completely new technology coming. Like this is like Web 1 back 20 years back. Yep. So AI is, I think at that stage, in fact, maturer than that stage at least. And some of the obvious things are, of course, like as we have discussed earlier as well, like automating some of the manual tasks. If you have to look at the future of it, and tasks which generally salesperson, let's say, I'm considering sales as a use case to, let's say, discuss this point. One of the things is like salesperson should not be spending 2 hours updating CRMs, or let's say doing things that they are not supposed to, that's not going to add to their productivity or add to their revenue, right? So salesperson's main objective, and sales is the kind of the oldest profession, one of the oldest professions, is like to generate revenue. So how do you generate revenue? When you put in time into that. You're not going to generate revenue by filling data in a Google Sheet or even in an Excel sheet or a CRM for that matter, right? So that's where we see, that's one thing. I think automating the manual tasks. Second is your basically automating tasks which depending on the strength of the salesperson, and this is slightly futuristic as well. So let's say I am very good at closing a deal. I'm not good at opening a conversation, let's say. So giving tasks or basically automating some of the tasks which a salesperson, or maybe using tools to use to kind of fulfill that objective would be something which we see in the future. And there, I mean, as a salesperson, you still have to manage the end-to-end process. You'd rather manage the part of the sales where exactly is your strength, right? So instead of spending time on something which you are not so good at, spend time on something which is already a trait on you, a trait with you, you have, and or you can kind of improve further on that. You can be the top 1 percentile in that particular category or that particular kind of skill. So that is one thing. And of course, I think a lot of discussion has been happening around kind of maybe a BDR role would not be there, or BDR role would be extinct in some years or something like that. I mean, at least from my perspective, what we see is that is going to be there, but in a different way. So right now, a lot of the tasks that the BDRs do is very manual. They will send emails, they'll send LinkedIn connects, or they'll do cold calls. So at least some part of that would be fully automated. And the guys would be focusing more on the human element of it, which is where people connect better. Let's say, imagine, let's say Tanner kind of talking to a salesperson, and it's a robo or an AI kind of a guy, AI person, rather than an actual human. So you don't connect to kind of a AI person probably. You might, get the information that you need, but eventually you'll want to talk to a person to be able to, let's say, conclude a thing, right? Or close a deal probably. So these are the few areas we see: automation of tasks, or reducing the manual effort, reducing the things people don't really kind of enjoy doing. You'd rather have the AI do that for you. So these are the few things I think where we see. And agents are pretty big, with the elephant in the room, Salesforce kind of identifying that as one of the big thing, agent force. We definitely see that is going to be there, but maybe that will not completely eliminate the BDR role. It will kind of enhance the BDR role. So it will basically only help them do the job better.
Wow. Tanner, before we get to you, Sachin, you made a great point. And I was there at Dreamforce to see the rollout of Agent Force. I even had my Einstein. They outfitted me with the whole Einstein outfit. And I love what you said in terms of AI supplementing. And I think what I heard you say is that we're in a B2B world, not business to business, but belly to belly. And with that, it's the true, genuine human element, the relationships that are going to separate those that thrive leveraging AI versus those that kind of get stuck in a rut and say, hey, we're not going to do this AI thing. They're going to be left behind. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sachin. Tanner, what do you have to add?
Yeah. In addition to what Sachin said, I think what will be important moving forward is reconnecting with your pipeline, or call it kind of like a web of people you've talked to in the past, in a hyper-personalized way. I think there's so many cold emails, nurtured emails that really aren't relevant for any single individual. So I think it's leveraging AI to get a better understanding of where the potential customer is at. Whether that's pulling notes that you have from your CRM, or pulling, a recent news article about the business itself, and using that at scale, right? I think, Lighter Capital, for instance, is creating a lighter analytics platform. So we're getting mainly software as a service companies, financials, revenue retention, churn, those types of SaaS metrics, and offering it to anyone actually who wants to get involved with lighter analytics. And we want to use that leverage to not only say, hey, now might be a good time to reconnect with you in regards to capital, but we can actually get an understanding that, hey, you're in the top 10% of churn SaaS metrics that we have. That seems like a really strong position to potentially look at capital, because you have a product that people tend to like and stay with, right? So I think that's kind of where it's changing, going from this generic templates to actually understanding, each of the individuals in a CRM at scale. I think it's hard to do, but I think that's, where I imagine it would be going.
Wow. And Tanner, I'll be honest, this doesn't happen to me often, but you nailed it. When you're talking about hyper personalized and leveraging AI and technology to assist you with that seriously warms my heart. Now, another thing that warms my heart, because as a sales leader, oh my goodness, the sales forecasting of the team, woo, it would certainly knock me out. I'm curious, Sachin, how accurate have you found AI to be within sales forecasting? And I'm also curious, what are some of those common challenges in aligning the AI insights and AI generated forecasts with that real world, real deal insight and input?
No, absolutely. Forecasting is definitely one of the big things we at our company are also kind of trying to help sales leaders with, or even generally sales teams or revenue operations teams do that, because that's one of the kind of key pillars of the product or the company that we are building here. So, but it's still what we have realized is that some of the information most of the information that we get is from meetings or CRM data that is already filled in by humans, right? So what the challenge there and how people are using it, we definitely see that as a going forward as one of the big kind of things on forecasting, as in especially in the tools that we are producing or kind of complementary things that we are doing in terms of helping sales leaders. But the challenge we see is basically, so what happens is, let's say what is discussed in a meeting, you're basically being able to capture, let's say, but things that go outside that meeting, maybe you have a phone call or things that you discuss with your manager on a coffee break, those are the things which would not be captured in your CRM or any other format of data, right? So, and that information is only if you feed that data into your systems that you use, let's say your system of record, which is your CRM, or it could be a meeting that you happen, right? But a lot of the things, subtle things, let's say the prospect, you're the key decision maker that you're talking to, maybe, or the champion that you're talking to, has already informed you offline that that person might not be leaving the job or kind of moving on from that job in 3 months' time. And your sales cycle is 6 months. So if you don't kind of capture that anywhere, and that's very difficult, CRMs generally don't have that as a feed, or probably even as a meeting kind of data is captured in any way, right? So those are the things which do come into kind of impacting a deal, and that will eventually impact your forecast. But there are subtle things, other things that you would not be able to capture, which is still, I think, work in progress on the forecasting side. I mean, whoever is claiming that it's 100% accurate, it's not kind of telling you the truth. And the other thing is that a lot of the data that AI tools kind of give you in terms of forecasting is indicative data. It is not conclusive data. So it is going to give you some indications in terms of, okay, these are the signs that the AI has detected in your conversations, in your data that you are giving to the AI to kind of analyze. And based on that, it will give you some forecasting. But it has to be a lot of other combination of factors which should kind of actually give you more accurate forecasting. But at least it's starting from something. Let's say maybe 5 years back, you didn't have anything. In fact, you have something to fall back on today. But yeah, it's still a work in progress, I would say. That's where the challenge is. Yeah.
Oh, I love you sharing that, and we're making progress, which leads to my question for Tanner, because we can automate. I've heard the word automate over and over again, and I love automation, but I also love that human element, that human interaction. So I'm curious, because we know that AI can handle massive amounts of data and offer predictions. How do we keep that balance? How do we maintain a balance between automation and the human touch within the sales process?
Yeah, I think for us, and something Lighter is working on, is kind of balancing between hyper human touch sales process and flows, and less human touch process and flows. So I think we land all the way down to 50,000 and up to 4 million. I don't think there's many startups out there that wouldn't want to have multiple conversations with a potential capital provider if we're talking about $1 million plus facility, right? But there's some startups out there, on the they qualify for say 50 to 100,000 that are moving very fast. The team's scaling rapidly. It's early stages, and they probably want something with less human touch, right? So I think having the optionality in your sales process of, one track, expediting, and then the other track kind of having more heavy human touches is important. And, identifying, what that is for your specific business, right? Ours is fairly, numbers driven, right? But others, might be based on contract value or based on your ICP that you're seeking. Because I think at the end of the day, everyone gets frustrated when you call customer support for Wi-Fi or something like that, and you can't talk to anyone. So I think you got to create that relationship, especially, if you want to be with a potential client long-term. So there always has to be a set point of contact. I think, that's why kind of the SVBs and venture banks of the world do really well, because for a rapidly growing startup, they have a designated point of contact, right, where they can call, or if it's your lawyer or something like that. I think that will always be the case, no matter how much, AI scales and impacts the sales process.
Gotcha. Now I'm going to stick with that, Tanner, because we're seeing a shift. We're seeing a change. And with AI more and more taking over those repetitive tasks, I want to know, how do you think that the roles and the skill sets of the top sales professionals are going to change over the next 3 to 5 years? There's got to be some sort of shift that we see. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think historically, and maybe not even now, you look for a salesperson who's, extremely charismatic, really great talker, and can really engage right away. And I think, all those things are still very relevant for any good salesperson. But I think what I look for in a salesperson is someone that's curious, and someone, you don't have to understand, how to use all the tools at scale. In addition to MeetRecord, we use Outreach, Seamless AI, some LinkedIn messaging platforms. You don't have to have those skills from day one. But I think gone are the days of, having a salesperson that just, takes notes on a notebook and doesn't really care about the CRM or scalability. For Lighter, I did like a quick analysis. Most of my salespeople are having maybe 600 to 800 calls a year, right? And you can't do that and nurture those leads on a scalable basis without tools. So if you're not an expert in the tool, sure, you can focus on the top 5% of that pipeline that you have and maybe still be successful. But there's no way that you'll be performing to the way you want to all 800 of the people. So, people that cherry pick and are just looking for, say, the big deals or the deals that show traction, I think it's more bringing a well-rounded salesperson that's, at minimum to me, curious to master the other tools that can help them.
Wow. I love that. And thank you for sharing. Curiosity might have killed the cat, but it certainly helped the sales professional have sustained and continuous success. And thank you, Tanner. Sachin, anything to add?
No, I think Tanner was point on. So I mean, tools keep changing. So imagine 10 years back, we just started using the CRM probably, or maybe use the CRM for the first or second time. But tools might keep changing. The human element, as I said, like the attitude or the way that you work or your working style, the curiosity that you have, and the willingness to kind of go beyond the usual, that's where your differentiators would be. Today it's AI, tomorrow might be something else. So you just have to adapt to that. But at the same time, you have to keep kind of yourself up to date in terms of tools. But I would still say, I think if I have to pick a salesperson on their whether they are able to use the tool, because today you're using some, let's say, Outreach, for example, tomorrow you might be using their competitor or something else. So as long as you are able to adapt quickly. So adaptability is the word for me, both in terms of skills as well as in terms of a salesperson's kind of winning, whether I see that salesperson as a winning person in deals.
That's phenomenal. Now, Sachin, I'm going to stick with you, and I'm going to stack questions. I know in sales you're not supposed to stack questions, but Tanner made me do it. Tanner talked about curiosity and continuous learning. He also talked about personalization, customization at scale. I'm just curious, how does AI facilitate that continuous learning? If I'm a rep and I'm hungry, I'm thirsting for knowledge, how can AI help me, especially as the market conditions change? I mean, you think about it, 2024 is different from 2023, and I would expect that 2025 is going to be different from now. How can AI help me there, as well as how is AI helping with those personalized interactions at scale without losing that human touch? I don't want people to see me as a robot. I want them to see me as the person that I am. I need your answer on both of those: continuous learning as well as the personalization.
So continuous learning is, I think, definitely where AI has kind of picked up pace in the last couple of years, and especially in the last 1 year or so. And we ourselves kind of focus a lot on that. Basically, what happens generally, I mean, we are all used to, like 7-8 years back or 10 years back, everybody was used to sitting in a training session for maybe in the initial period when you joined a new organization, and used to that training process. Whenever, let's say, something new has to be taught, you are either part of a Zoom call, which is off late, but yeah, at least you'll be part of a training session in a kind of training room, right? Or on your computers, right? So, but with times, what has happened that the retaining, generally, like it's a human tendency also, that the amount of data, kind of information that you retain from a training session is hardly 10%, even less than that actually, right? So how do you kind of actually go ahead and keep yourself improving with the information that is already, so much information already available there? Like, even if you imagine, let's say, typical use case, so many guys having different skills, very good skills. So as I said earlier as well, let's say more than looking outside, it's also within the team that you can learn from. So how can you learn from them is basically based on previous data. Let's say what happened last year in your meetings, or I'm taking meeting as an example, considering the use case we are, the product we are into. So what happens is typically when you do what meetings that you did last year, might not be relevant maybe 1 year down the line, right? So your product might have changed, the market might have changed, that your ICP might also change to some extent, maybe some cases. So how do you adapt to that? So that's where AI kind of comes in, and kind of based on analysis of your previous data, it gives you, let's say, a package of learning which would help you to adapt to today's times. And that's how we see continuous learning kind of helping sales reps in their day-to-day lives. How they can adapt quickly to the new processes or new systems or new products or things that they are selling, doing to sell products or services in today's times. And what was the second part you talked about?
Yeah,
customization?
It's the AI-driven personalization at scale. I want to know, how is AI? I know that Tanner talked about the customization at scale. How can AI assist with my team when we want to make sure that the human element doesn't get lost?
Yeah, I think so. Generally, when you are trying to personalize data, you look at two things. One is, of course, your customer behavior in the past, how they behaved in terms of certain aspects of the way you sell to them, or how they actually, some past behavior experience or analysis would help. So that's where AI has come in very strongly here, where instead of you going about finding information, probably there are a lot of tools out there which will help you to actually create these personalized kind of experiences for your customers or prospects. And that's where kind of one of the things we see generally is, of course, emails. But emails, there is only to a certain extent that you can personalize. So when you meet a person, probably you can customize to much larger extent in terms of how you pitch your product, how you present them. So I might be pitching the same product to a sales head. I might be pitching the same product to, let's say, a customer success person. I might be pitching to a same kind of a different kind of ICP with the same product. So how do I make my pitch relevant to that person based on their use case, right? So that's where AI has come in strongly, and we see that as a very strong use case in terms of personalizing the pitch or personalizing the emails, which has been happening to an extent. But personalization, generally people think it's just personalizing the name probably. That doesn't help, didn't help 10 years back, doesn't help today. So personalizing has to be something without getting too snoopy on somebody. Probably you'll have to maintain that distance. but you can still personalize information on your emails, on your approach, on your the way you pitch them, what exactly keywords you should be using in your pitch. So there are definitely a lot of tools out there which help you do that.
Oh, I appreciate it. Greatly appreciate it. So thank you so much, Sachin. Tanner, I want to know, give me the real deal. What's been your experience using MeetRecord? And specifically, what have been the ways that it's helped to enhance your team's processes, decision making, just impact all around?
Yeah, so before MeetRecord, we didn't have any recording or coaching tools. So what kind of spurred me to get it in place was we're a fully remote company at Lighter Capital, and sales team has varied, but right now we have 5 total people, 3 or 4 in the US and then 1 in Australia. And we had 2 company offsites a year. And the day before, what we do, and we found a ton of value in, is we'd all record one of our calls and we'd listen to them together. Usually it would be reviewed beforehand by a manager. And we got so much value in that, to be able to, okay, how do you handle, someone saying our cost of capital is high, or, how do you handle that our loan size isn't quite high enough for the business? And, how do you start a call? How do you end a call? Those types of things. And so when I saw that, and at the time I was a salesperson for Lighter, I knew I wanted to make that way more accessible, on a daily basis. So that's why it was obvious to choose MeetRecord. And what I like about it more than anything, something that I'm a firm believer in, as a manager of a sales team, is team collaboration. Because the person who's just started, 4 months ago on my team, regardless of how you train them and how you upskill them, the person who's been here for 4 years is going to know so much more. And, that's why I want to keep the boundaries wide open in regards to listening to each other's calls and things like that, because, that's a way where you can really expedite someone, who's at the beginning stages, of the profession, to really get them to be just as good as, an expert in the field on my team. Right. So I think that's just really important, is to take the time, out of every single week, to see how you can improve and learn from other people on the team. Because even, a sales leader, what really happens at Lighter Capital is, I have a term sheet here and, they're not signing, or, I haven't heard anything from them for a few days, kind of the deal goes cold, super common. Do I always have the answers to that question? No. But maybe another person has been in the same exact situation on the team. And, we can then go back to your initial call and see, hey, was something missed there? Right. So I think those are some of the components that, I use MeetRecord for. In addition to, overall metrics, like how many questions they ask. The talk to listen ratio, I think, is a really big one for me. And an overall, kind of impression of the call. Are you just sticking to a script and asking questions that qualify the applicant, right? Or are you getting off script and really diving deeper into the business? Which for me is asking questions that don't necessarily get you from step 1 to step 2 in the sales process, but really get you a better understanding to learn more about the individual and the business. Even if it's just asking, what's the biggest obstacle that you face right now in your business? Or what's the biggest mistake you've made, as you've been growing your business? Because founders are in the hardest position, in the world to start their businesses, with funding, with creating new products and features on a daily basis. So, we're in a really cool spot to be a capital provider and work with them and consistently learn from them. So that's really, the goal that I want, when I kind of set out to get a better understanding of it, MeetRecord, and implement it. And it's been really great, for all of those use cases.
Wow, that's powerful. Now, you were talking about some of the KPIs, key performance indicators, and AI. I mean, I don't know if you can see my head explode, and just the wealth of data, the wealth of information that's out there. I'm curious, Tanner, what are those sales metrics that have become either more significant or most insightful for the modern sales teams?
Yeah, for me, the most important KPIs are something I like to call controlled variables. So, even with AI, you can get really complex in what you're analyzing, but I like to go down to the basics still. And for me, that's how many new leads that you create, whether that's a monthly or quarterly basis, how many referrals you're getting, how many conversations you're having, per week, and are you really good at pipeline management and portfolio management, at least in our space? Because sometimes you can't control the outcome, regardless of how you had that initial sales call or closing call, maybe they were never going to buy, regardless. But I think any sales process, you can pick 4 or 5 controlled variables that are completely in the power of each salesperson. And if they're hitting those, regardless of the results, if you can go back to, a core pillar set, I think the results will come, and if they don't come, maybe it's okay, maybe I'm focusing on the wrong control variables, right? Maybe it's more so you need to attend more events, and experiment like that. But I think if someone's succeeding on things they can control in the role, they should be showing success, or you kind of go back to the drawing board.
Wow, that's powerful. Powerful. Speaking of going to the drawing board, it's almost closing time. So I want to let all of our viewers, all of our listeners know now is your last call to submit those questions that you've been noodling on, that have been percolating in your mind. Now, Sachin, I want to tag team on what Tanner just shared around the sales metrics. How can sales leaders ensure that they're measuring the right metrics without being overcome and overwhelmed by all of the data that's out there?
Yeah, I mean, see, the basics still remain the same as Tanner mentioned as well. So how many meetings or how many leads they are generating per week, that is definitely one of the key metrics for any sales organization. But with time or with technology coming in, that can be measured, of course. So one of the things we see is basically, as in like teams struggling with, is the close rate. So you might be able to generate a lead either through different channels, events, meetings, or let's say inbound, outbound, whatever, marketing, paid marketing, whatever works for you. But what is your close rate is something which is like, even if you're able to generate opportunity and you're not able to close it, so that is something which kind of sets the ball rolling, kind of in terms of people not being able to achieve their numbers, right? So we, of course, being able to generate leads is definitely right at the top, one of the top numbers, things that we definitely measure at our organizations. And in all my 10 plus years of sales experience, that's what I've seen generally, sales teams or sales leaders kind of doing that. But close rate is definitely one of the other things. And churn rate, of course, is more responsible on. There are other teams which takes care of that. But also being able to upsell or kind of have referrals, those are also other metrics. These are the top 3 metrics, I would say. Lead gen, your close rate, your retention. These are the few metrics where sales leaders keep an eye on. And that's where I think we see the ball kind of rolling in terms of how sales leaders can use this metrics.
I love it. I love it. Those leading indicators to keep a keen eye out. Now, Sachin, this is my final question I've got just for you. And we've talked about the real-time coaching, leveraging AI. I'm just curious, how do you see real-time AI coaching evolving in the near future? What's going to happen on the horizon, on the forefront? And what impact does it have on immediate decision-making during our sales calls?
Yeah, so coaching has been a key element of our product as well. And generally, coaching is something which, again, you mentioned like real-time coaching, and there is post kind of analysis coaching. So real-time coaching is something, again, there are 2 aspects to it. So if you ask individual sales rep, how do they like real-time coaching? you'd hear a different opinion altogether, which is not so positive. But if you ask a sales manager, probably would they like to provide real-time coaching? Let's say, imagine we are talking here and pop-ups coming all over the screen telling me, okay, hey, you didn't ask this, you should be asking this question, or you should be pitching in this particular feature of your product. It's slightly obtrusive. So the opinion is slightly divided there, but it does come in whenever. So it depends on what stage you are in your sales journey, right? So for example, let's say if you're just starting out in your sales career, something like real-time coaching is definitely useful, right? But if once you're, let's say, a few years into your sales journey, let's say 3 years, 5 years, whatever journey, you might not really like somebody prompting you all the time, asking you to do this or do that. Probably you have built your own style by that time. And the style that you might have built requires a certain different kind of approach from what it is being pitched in real-time coaching. But definitely kind of more like passive coaching or personalized coaching, what we talked about earlier, is something which we see kind of coming in. But real-time coaching is still, unless it comes to a point where I am being able to kind of do something in real time in terms of coaching, it will be a divided kind of opinion on this thing.
Gotcha. And Tanner, final question for you, because it's so important, the culture of our sales team, the culture of our organizations. How do you see or foresee AI reshaping the culture of our sales organizations? Anything that you've seen, anything that you expect to see that might be surprising in terms of the mindset, the behavior as a result of this influx of AI?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the great things about AI and MeetRecord in the sales process is it can really give your salespeople confidence, in themselves, in their sales process. With MeetRecord, it's the only thing where you can essentially create a bit of a highlight reel, of your sales calls, right? Every deal you've closed in a given quarter, you can go back to all those calls, whether it's the initial call or term sheet call, whatever it may be, and listen to those. What went right? What could I have even improved on that, even though I got the outcome, right? But what could I have improved? And I think that's really powerful, right? Especially, the past 12 to 18 months for startups, growth is definitely challenging right now in this environment. So I think confidence is something that it can really spur to kind of have that database of successful outcomes and successful sales calls for any individual. And I think culturally, what MeetRecord specifically allows you to do is department collaboration. When I can show my marketing team, a 2-minute snippet of, a founder talking about their pain points or, their value prop, that's extremely valuable when you're talking about SEO, content creation, and things like that. So yeah, I mean, definitely a broad question, hard to tackle everything, but I think, confidence in sales teams and collaboration between departments are things that are top of mind for me.
Ooh-wee. I like that. And way to end us on a mic drop moment right there. Truly appreciated Tanner. Truly appreciated Sachin. That was amazing, digging into how AI is changing the game and those key challenges in sales teams. Now, I was taking notes, and some of the highlights as I think back to our chat, some of the themes that I heard: curiosity, that came from Tanner; adaptability, knowing thyself, controlling the controllables, the power of AI, the power of relationships. We're getting belly to belly, making sure that we keep that human element, the coaching at scale. And then as Tanner just shared, the confidence, the collaboration, the continuous learning. I think we have one final question before we wrap, and we want to make sure we wrap on time, but this is going to be a lightning round. Apart from sales teams, it's great for even marketing, for content and business language use, as well as product teams to learn from what customers are talking about, AKA their product. Okay, that's not a question. That was just a comment. Someone I think is agreeing with everything that you shared today. So On behalf of MeetRecord, on behalf of Larry Long Jr., Lighter Capital, I want to say thank you to everyone for joining us. I want to say thank you to our panelists, Tanner K, Sachin S. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure. And we can't wait to see you in November for part 3 of our series. So we wish you all the best, continued success, and happy selling. Bye for now.
Thanks, Larry. Thank you, Tanner.
Thank you, Sachin.
Hey, everyone.
Thank you, Tanner.
Thank you.
No doubt. Happy selling, y'all. Take care now. Bye.